Hello, everyone. Welcome to Skeptical Inquirer Presents. This is a series of live online presentations from experts who are devoted to advancing science over pseudoscience, media literacy over conspiracy theories, and critical thinking over magical thinking. I'm your host, stand-up comedian, author, and SciCon MC, Leanne Lord. I think this is our next to last episode of the season before we head out to Buffalo, New York, June 11th through 14th for SciCon's 50th anniversary. Man, we've got Banachek, Mary Roach, Bill Nye, and so many more. I hope I get to see you there. Now, as you know, this show is now streaming on several social media platforms, including Facebook and YouTube. And so no matter where you're joining us from, you can pop your questions about the presentation into the chat, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. Now, tonight, we are getting a glimpse into a field guide to spotting misinformation with our guest, Melanie Trecek-King. Now, I have to share personally that one day early in our relationship, I was telling my partner about a story that I saw online. He looked it up and he said, "Oh yeah, that's true." And at first I thought, dude, did you just fact check me? And then I thought, he fact checked me. Now, for context, in addition to being cute as a button, my sweetie is a former journalist, and he cares that the information we share with each other, talk about, and make decisions on comes from credible sources. And we try our best to keep each other honest because that's where we are now, not just as a couple, but as a species. And listen, for most of human history, our survival depended on two things: group loyalty and split-second decisions. Today, those same instincts are plugged into a network of billions of strangers and an endless stream of content. The rapid pace of technology has outpaced our evolved defenses. Our ability or our inability to keep up can feel like personal failure, but it's more of a biological challenge. And so, drawing on her upcoming book, A Field Guide to Spotting Misinformation, from Savanna to Smartphone, How to Survive and Thrive in the Digital Age, tonight's guest places our modern misinformation crisis in a biological and historical context. She'll explore how our ancient hardware makes us vulnerable and provides the practical tools we need to navigate the digital age without getting played by it. Now, Melanie Trecek-King, she's so many things, y'all. She is a speaker, a writer, an educator dedicated to helping people think more clearly. She's the creator of Thinking is Power. And after 20 years as a biology professor, she now works across a wide range of industries, from finance to the arts, to help professionals think more clearly, communicate effectively, and make wiser decisions. Where was this woman in my 20s, y'all? Now, an educator at heart, she develops curricula to help students make sense of the modern information landscape and avoid being fooled by misinformation. She's also a columnist for Skeptical Inquirer and a fellow of the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry. So I'm very pleased to have her here. Y'all, please welcome Melanie Trecek-King.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you for that amazing introduction. You know, I should tell you, like, I just finished a book on writing misinformation, and I was almost scammed twice while writing the book.
I feel like it's only a matter of time sometimes, because our smartness doesn't necessarily, or our thinking that we're smart doesn't necessarily protect us. And they are working overtime, and they just have to get it right one time.
Just have to get, and at the right time.
At the right time. So yeah, no internet for me after midnight, everybody, or a glass of wine. I've learned my lesson. Yes, my shopping cart is full of bad decisions.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, no comment. But Melanie, thank you for being on the show. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, thank you for having me. Should I start?
Yes, by all means.
Let's see how this works. Okay, are you seeing a field guide to spotting misinformation? So, I'm a biologist, and I approach this topic as a biologist. It is completely understandable to look at our current misinformation crisis and see a tech problem or a political problem. It's easy to point the finger at AI, social media algorithms, or at other people who are so stupid that they fall for misinformation. But fake news didn't start in 2016. It actually started billions of years ago when an early cell figured out that it could get a free lunch by lying. We can learn a lot about our current crisis and even potential solutions by looking at the bigger picture. Falling for misinformation isn't a moral failing. As I said, I have fallen for misinformation. We like to think of ourselves as highly rational, but at the end of the day, we're just animals, hominids with smartphones. The famous saying is that nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution, and that includes misinformation. So if we are to survive the digital age, we need to understand the rules of the game. I want to start with one of my favorite scenes from Finding Nemo, where Dory and Marlin are below the photic zone where it's dark in the deep sea, and they find a light, and they are I'm not going to try, but the two of them spot the light, and they are talking about how they're attracted to it, and they're happy, and they're playing with it, and they go to chase it, and eventually the light gets close to the anglerfish's jaws, and the jaws open, and what they see is the light is guiding them into the mouth of this anglerfish. So the deep ocean is incredibly dark. About 75% of the organisms in the deep ocean are bioluminescent, like plankton and small fish. And to many fish down there, a light means a food source. The anglerfish uses its bioluminescence as a fishing rod. It's here's the light, dangle the light, and the two of them chase the light, and then Marlin says, "Happy feeling gone," and they start to be scared and run away from the anglerfish. The point is, in nature, communication isn't about sharing facts. It's a tool for survival, and telling the truth is not always the most advantageous strategy. So they've fallen for misinformation. I mean, it's Disney, so it's also anthropomorphized, and no, they don't speak English, so I suppose that's misinformation too. But the point is, they have fallen for this anglerfish. So in nature, communication is an interaction between a sender and a receiver. So the sender is sending information and the receiver receives it. And the goal of the sender is not about sharing the truth. It's about influence. And the receiver gives feedback, and the sender may alter its message. But I joke that misinformation and reliable information ride together. Like misinformation is shotgun. Wherever there's one, there might be the other. So the goal of the sender is influence, not necessarily truth. So here's an example. There's in the genus Photurus of fireflies, the females are called femme fatales. They mimic the mating flashes of the other fireflies. And the males come in to mate, but instead of mating with them, they eat them. So not only, though, do these females get a meal, they actually get some defensive toxins the males have with them called leucibophagens that protect them from other predators like spiders. The point here is that in nature, communication isn't necessarily about sharing the truth. It's a survival tool that's goal is to influence. And evolution rewards survival and reproduction. And even plants send deceptive signals I hope this works here. I don't think it's working, unfortunately. So this is a video where plants, this is the bee orchid, that has flowers that look and smell like female bees. And it tricks the male bees into mating with them. So the males come and they try very hard to, this is called pseudocopulation. The males try very hard to have sex with this female, what they think is a female, but it's really just a flower. The male actually gets nothing. He loses time and energy, and he goes off to the next flower to try to mate with what he thinks is a female bee. And he's really just helping the plant have sex, right? I suppose you could call this catfishing. The female, this flower is tricking the male, sending false signals. The cost of a mistake can be high, which is why the receiver's job is to discriminate between the signals. As a receiver, the goal is to filter the spam and accept what's true and reject what's false. The bee didn't want to help the plant. He wanted to mate. But because the plant's signal bypassed his filter, his behavior was influenced to benefit the sender. But he paid the price. There's lots of examples of this in the animal kingdom, plant kingdom. Viruses send false signals. If a signal is valuable, it creates an opening for a liar to exploit it. And I say liar loosely here, like liar. Are they trying to lie, or are they just trying to free ride on a signal? This is the coral snake and its mimics. So the coral snake is a venomous snake, but there's mimics that have evolved to appear like the coral snake. So that if you're hiking through the woods and you see a snake that looks like this, the best thing for you to do is to just avoid this snake. You could stop and, oh, what kind of snake is this? And figure out the species, or you could just avoid it, which is what the mimic is trying to do. So the mimic is taking advantage of the real signal. It is winning by influencing our behavior to let it be. The receiver wins by sharpening their filter then. The best defense as a receiver is to get better at discriminating between signals. So far, with communication, the point is to understand that deception is as old as communication itself. Misinformation is a biological strategy. It is used to influence behavior for the benefit of the sender. Your filter is what determines the winning signal. So let's try to understand the human filter. If we want to understand our modern struggle, we need to look at the environment that shaped our filter. Our brain isn't a camera, right? It sits inside a dark vault inside of our skulls. It's never seen a sunset or heard the roar of a lion. It receives electrical signals from its senses, and it interprets those signals. So the senses, sight, sound, taste, touch, etc., capture the raw data. And then the brain makes sense of the raw data using its existing mental models, its heuristics, its emotions. Emotions are survival signals. Like fear tells us to flee. Outrage tells us we're under threat. The point is, we don't see reality as it is. We see it as our brain interprets for us. And there's a lot of issues with this process. Like, first, there's a lot our senses miss. A great way to picture this, again, as a biologist, is to see to recognize the parts of the environment that our senses don't capture, but that other living organisms do. So, for example, the visible light spectrum represents a small fraction of the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Bees can see ultraviolet, but they don't see shades of red. So they see a different world than we do. Sound, humans can hear between about 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz, but elephants can hear deep sounds, and the greater waxwing moth actually can hear ultrasounds up to 300,000 kilohertz. Dogs can smell about 10 to 100,000 times better than humans can. And taste, catfish live in dark, murky waters where eyes are basically useless. So it evolved other senses to help it understand the environment. It evolved, for example, to taste with its skin. It can taste a meal or a predator much better than humans can with their mouth. So there is even a part of the physical world that our senses are not capturing. So our senses capture part of the environment, and then we have to figure out how to make sense of it. So broadly speaking, we have two ways of processing information. This is Daniel Kahneman's work with System 1 and System 2. So System 1 is our fast, ancient default system. It is the autopilot. We don't have to think about it. It's based on our emotions, our intuitions, our gut. This is the when you figured out, like, you've gotten to work and you don't know how you got there, or like 5 plus 5 is 10, but 35 times 212 you have to stop and think about, so you don't, because that takes a lot of effort. Oftentimes what System 1 does is that it looks for these patterns, it jumps to a conclusion based on these heuristics and what it already knows, and then it suggests something. System 2 is the system that is slow and deliberative, and it can think more rationally, but it takes a lot of effort, and it's lazy. So it only turns on if it's necessary. So oftentimes what it does is just accepts whatever System 1 says, and then it gives reasons why System 1 was right. So we take in this information from the environment, and then we process it in different ways. We can think analytically about it, but oftentimes System 1 just takes over because it doesn't take a lot of effort, and then System 2 goes, yeah, that sounds about right. I realized when putting together this presentation how much of a Gen Xer I am, so I apologize if you don't understand this reference, but this is all I could think about. Your brain is motivated by different things. This is a Sprite commercial from the 90s, like, excuse me, what's my motivation? So System 1 is largely motivated by, in evolutionary biology, there's the 4 Fs: fight, flee, feed, or mate. So is this a threat that I need to confront? Is this a danger that I need to avoid? Can I eat it, or can I reproduce? So we have senses taking in a bit, we have our processing, and then we have what our brain is motivated to do. Like, our brain's primary motivation is not to seek absolute truths. It's to help us survive. It's to be safe. So that it could be great if you're correct, but if you're too slow, you're dead. I would add one more F here, though, which is fellowship. If you're a weak, hairless primate on the Savanna, you can't do any of those 4 Fs by yourself, right? If you weren't in a group, you couldn't fight off predators, you couldn't mate. This is why tribal disagreement, disagreeing with our in-group members, can feel so personal. Well, almost like a physical threat, because most of our history, it actually was. If we were alone on the Savanna, it's like a death sentence. The social psychologist Brooke Harrington has a great quote that something like, if there is an E equals MC squared of social psychology, is this: social death is worse than physical death. It is better to be wrong with your tribe than it is to be right alone. So our filter is optimized for the Savanna. Signals were we evolved in an information scarcity environment. The goal was safety and belonging, not necessarily accuracy. So what's changed isn't really our filter. It's the environment that it's in. This mismatch is the root of much of today's misinformation problem. And to help us understand, put this into perspective, I created a communication clock where if you have all of human history on a 24-hour clock, at midnight is the evolution of modern humans, which is about 300,000 years ago. What this clock does is put into this 24-hour period to help us put into perspective the kinds of changes in the sharing of information. So if we start at midnight, where modern humans evolved about 300,000 years ago, it takes all of human history until about 75,000 years ago to get to complex language. We didn't start writing things down until about 3400 BCE, written language, about 1133. Okay, if we keep going, this is going to happen very fast. We have the Gutenberg Press, 1450 CE, the telegraph. We're at a minute before midnight. We have the telephone. We have the radio. Television. We're 30 seconds ago. Handheld cell phones. I don't know about you. I didn't get my first cell phone until 1999. The personal computer. This is when it first started, not necessarily when it started to become widely adopted. We got Google in 1998 at 8 seconds ago. Facebook, 2004. The iPhone, 2007, 5 seconds ago. Generative AI. So as someone who is publishing a book about misinformation, I have a chapter on AI, and it is out of date already, and it's not even published yet. This is happening so fast. When you put these advances in technology, I'm dating myself a bit. I turned 50 in a couple of weeks, and 50 years ago, think of how many things here were not here yet. We first had the first personal computer, but we just started carrying access to the world's information in our pockets in the last generation. It can be hard to put this stuff into perspective, which is why I wanted to create something like this to help us understand it. The point here is at the root of our modern misinformation problem is this great mismatch. We're basically hominids with smartphones. We evolved in an environment of information scarcity. Everything that we knew, we either personally experienced or we heard from someone that we trusted. We evolved in tribes of 150. We now live in an environment where we have access to billions of strangers' opinions in our pockets instantaneously. Now, this is not to say that we are the same humans that are roamed the earth 300,000 years ago. The point is that cultural and technological evolution is happening much faster than biological evolution. And this can help us understand the problem that we're currently facing. So there is a mismatch between the speed of the signals and the volume of the signals and our filter, which has not had time to catch up to the digital age. Misinformation hijacks our filter. The anglerfish attracted prey who thought they were getting a meal. I imagine in my brain the smartphone as being like the digital lure, the mimic that draws us toward the signal that we want to believe or that we're tuned to believe. but that's not necessarily in our best interest. So misinformation has certain tells, but the reasons that it's effective are largely because of how it exploits these ancient signals. It exploits those four F's. It bypasses our logic. It bypasses system two by targeting our ancient hardware. Outrage, anger, fear of threats, conflicts, promises of miracle solutions that confirm what we want to believe. All of this causes us to react, not analyze. Think about the kinds of stuff that as you're scrolling through your feeds that causes you to pause and to feel these triggers, to feel the outrage, the indignation, the self-righteousness. All of those bypass the wait, is this true? And just go right to, is this something that I need to be concerned with? Is this important? It is triggering those ancient instincts. So it uses our emotions against us. And one of the most dangerous things that it does is that it exploits our tribalism. We evolved in these small tribes where it was our survival. But this meant that our tribe can be weaponized against us. So our us versus them, we are right and good, and they aren't just wrong, they're evil. So when a claim comes through that targets not just our emotions, but our identity, our political identity, our social or religious, we don't just process it as information. It is a loyalty test. This is what Brooke Harrington was getting to when she said, if there is an E equals MC squared of social psychology, it's that our social belonging mattered more than the truth. We need to belong. And this kind of tribalism and misinformation is one of the easiest ways to bypass our critical thinking. And this can happen to even the most intelligent people who, instead of using system two to stop and ask, wait, is this actually true? Then it causes us to pause and say, wait, are we in conflict with our tribe? We need so much to stay in good standing with our tribe that we're willing to sacrifice what is true. As someone who has been writing a book about misinformation, one of the things that I could say is that almost everyone will tell me that misinformation is important, and that literally the conversation goes like this: oh, misinformation, that is so important. Can you believe all the stupid things that those people fall for? And the longer that conversation goes on, the more likely the conversation is to go towards a type of misinformation that they believe. And this is really this is an issue. I started this by saying I have almost fallen for misinformation. Actually, I almost fell for misinformation while writing this book, but I have fallen for misinformation. This is not a them problem. It is an us problem. Even the most dedicated skeptics, by recontextualizing the misinformation problem in this biological lens, there's no judging or shaming. We are all hominids with smartphones trying to navigate a world that our brain wasn't evolved for. Falling for misinformation isn't a personal failure. It doesn't mean you're stupid. It means you're human. Actually, it means that you're alive. We can all have our filters hijacked. So I think taking this perspective of misinformation from this big picture, its history, how other species can share misinformation, and how our filters didn't evolve in this environment, I think this helps us find solutions much better. So our misinformation hijacks our 5 Fs, our fight, flee, feed, mating, and fellowship. And we all have this same filter. It is part of being alive. So there are solutions. The key to understanding and solving our misinformation problem is to understand why it is that we're vulnerable to begin with, and to put it into context and see it for what it is. As humans alive in this environment with feeds coming at us that we are not necessarily adapted for, to understand who we are and our filters and these signals coming at us, our goal is to separate the reliable information from the lure. And I did tell you that as a Gen Xer, I was probably going to give you way more information about me than possible. But the goal is to upgrade your filter. We can't wait for evolution. We need to understand our filter and our environment to be able to not fall for misinformation. I should tell you before I finish here that I have a cover for my book, and I have to share it with you here. This is a field guide to spotting misinformation. What I have tried to do in this book is to understand the environment that we are currently in and that our filter is evolved for. We need to understand how misinformation works and how it uses its lure to take advantage of our filter. We need to understand what makes some information more reliable than others. And most importantly, how to understand ourselves so that we are not the reason that we fall for misinformation. As an individual in this environment, I teach college students. My focus here is the end user. I wish there were things I could do about the system to help prevent the flood of misinformation coming at us. The best thing that we can do, the best thing that I know how to do, is to help people understand themselves so that they are not the reason that they fall for misinformation. So thank you for everything. I am going to stop my share and have a conversation with Leanne. Did I press the right button?
I have no idea.
Did I press the right button?
I think you have. I think you have. Melanie, thank you so much for that. So many gems here. And I love the opening reminder that fake news is not news. We've been doing this. You know, we always want to think we're better, smarter, faster. Just doing a Bionic Man reference there. And yes, by the way, never apologize for being Gen X.
Okay. Thank you. I'm a good company.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Listen, we are already underutilized, undernoticed, underappreciated, and I will not stand for us doing it to ourselves.
Thank you.
No. You're very welcome. I appreciated all the references. I will say that my new favorite phrase, and I don't know how I'm going to work this into conversation, is a pseudo-copulation.
Sometimes
I don't know how to do it.
Biologist, like biology is about sex.
Yeah, challenge accepted. Let's see. You were talking about the limitation of our senses, what we can, how much light can we see, what are the ranges that we can hear in. And I thought about my cat who can hear a treat bag as I'm buying it at the store. That's how good his hearing is. Oh, I shouldn't talk crap about my little guy. I have to feed him at some point. And I love the delicate phrasing of the 4 Fs of the fourth one, but I love that you added fellowship, because I don't want to get preachy, especially with skeptics, but I do think that's what we're missing, that connection and an understanding. It's very scary, the willingness to side with tribe
Mm.
than to, no, hey, you guys, I don't think that's right. That is very hard to step out on your own, even though we need the fellowship of each other, what that can also mean. And yes, social death is, I mean, didn't we learn that in junior high school and high school?
You
I
know,
don't even think I made the yearbook, to be honest with you.
I mean, I graduated with 39, so I think I did, but it was only because there weren't many to put in there. Um, but I would definitely like, I've noticed this for myself. It is much harder to disagree with my own tribe than it is to disagree with people who aren't in my tribe. And I know this as a skeptic, as a critical thinker, but it is still so difficult to do. And the thing is, like, it is nearly impossible that our tribe is right about everything. It just can't be true. But
No.
like when truth becomes you're with me or you're against me, or you don't get to belong, or then
Right. It becomes a loyalty test. And I'm a big fan of, and when I say fan, I mean I'm very interested in con games, confidence schemes, what do you cults, things like that. I guess it's the three C's. And you watch almost with a sense of superiority. Oh, I would never. Like, didn't that tip you off? And it's like, no, it gets to that thing, and I think this should be on a T-shirt. Misinformation isn't a stupid people problem. It's an us problem, because the minute you start feeling superior, that there's something that is your blind side. There's something that you fall for, that you said that's the way of getting to what you think your misinformation is true. And I'm
yeah.
sorry.
So no, so if I might, like, I started this by saying I was almost scammed twice while writing a book about misinformation. I
Can you
was
share
actually
about that? Are you
almost scammed again this last week about a book of misinformation. But yeah, so like during the writing process, I was contacted by a podcast. It is a very well-known podcast. Actually, it truly is.
okay?
And it said, like, we would love to have you on the show. And they offered money to be on, which I thought was kind of strange because I've never
Hmm.
actually been paid to be on a podcast. But I thought, wait, high profile and paid? Okay.
Right.
In hindsight, too good to be true. But um, yeah, in fact, too good to be true. So what happened was they wanted to do a tech check. So I got on to do the tech check, and what he wanted was for me to get on my screen, give him access to Facebook behind the scenes, like my login information. And in my mind, I'm thinking something does not. And on this was a Zoom. Carlos's camera was off. Also, Carlos did not sound like a Carlos. His camera was off. And I asked, can you turn your camera on? Oh, I can't because I'm blah, blah, blah. He wanted access to stuff. And finally, I remembered in
Mm.
the back of my brain. So my brain was saying that something doesn't seem right. And I remembered reading about a podcast scam. So I said, you know what? Sorry, something is happening. I need to get off and come back to you later. And so I got off and I checked. And in fact, that is a well-known podcast scam where,
Oh boy.
right. Um,
I was worried that it
okay,
was us. I'm like, wait, did we scam you? Did we scam you here?
if I say yes, what happens? And
Wow.
just again, just this last week, somebody contacted me like, your book sounds great. We want to have you on this book fair. And like these scams are getting really good at targeting us, our vulnerabilities, and at just the right time. It is not an intelligence thing. It is not an intelligence thing.
No.
Can I say that 1,000 times? It is not intelligence. It is the right vulnerability at the right time, which
Yes.
is why trying to understand how that works and understanding ourselves so that we go, wait a minute, at that right moment, is that right? I should stop and ask.
The level of vigilance that is required for that, though. But I I believe this is probably coming from a conversation that we had. We since we talked at SciCon, and I've come to the idea if I'm scrolling through social media, um, if I am angered, if I'm triggered, if I'm like all of my feelings, that is now my signal to go wait. Like that is my signal to go, oh, that's what is the end game here? What are they doing? Why do they what am I supposed to do with this information? I'm supposed to be angry, I'm supposed to make a comment. And I know essentially in the most harmless way, and harmless in quotes, what they're trying to do is capture my attention because the attention is valuable. But then it can become more sinister. And so it's like, no, I think I'm going to take back my attention. I'm going to take back my anger. I'm going to take, and mind you, do a little research. My sweetie's really good about this. Like, yeah, let's make sure we're being mad about the right thing. Am I even mad about the right thing? Because I don't have a lot of energy and I want to make sure I'm mad in the best way possible. And leaving a snarky comment on Instagram may not be it. Now I'll leave a funny comment because that's on brand and I'm promoting myself.
But it could be
But
snarky funny.
it could be
Two birds.
snarky, right? And I want to sort of protect my peace and my energy, as the kids say these days.
One of the things, so with writing a book about misinformation, one of the things I struggled with is the topic of misinformation itself has become so politicized. It is a political thing. It is a silencing, a censoring. It is a your team versus my team thing. And what I'm trying to do here is to big picture here. Misinformation is any kind of information that is false or misleading. It is a scam. It's science denial. It's pseudoscience. It's conspiracy theories. It's whatever it is that is leading us away from the truth. It is not a them problem. It is an everyone problem. And the kinds of I think I struggle with this framing because there's a lot of misinformation that is political and that is very harmful. But I think that taking that sort of view distracts people from the core of the problem, which can help everyone. Which is to say, if someone thinks that I am accusing them of falling for misinformation because I think they're stupid or because I think they're on their team, all of that draws a line in the sand. It is othering people. It is making it a them problem. By approaching misinformation in this kind of way, with the broad definition, with the kinds of understanding that it is a communication problem, it helps us have empathy for other people. It helps us recognize our own vulnerabilities because, again, we can all fall for it. And it is, in my humble opinion, the only way that I know that we might be able to solve this problem. What we're doing, this conversation of you're stupid, you've fallen for this, it is not going to work. It's not going to change someone's mind. Putting it into the context of it's what happens when you're a living organism and you misunderstand a signal, and that we can all fall for it.
Or a signal has been deliberately given to you incorrectly. Anybody can fall for that.
Anyone can. And actually doing that is someone's trying to send you a false signal because they're trying to fool you. Doesn't that make you upset? And of course it does. No one wants to be lied to. So yes, it is an all of us problem. It is a biological problem. It is a human signal problem. And if you don't want to fall for it, then fine tune your filter.
Oh boy. I often mention her. It's one of our early guests on the show, Carol Tavares, who I know. adore, adore, adore. If I were going to give up comedy and go back to school, it would be to either be a lawyer or to be a social psychologist. I love that's how much what she does impresses me. And the title of one of her books is Mistakes Were Made, but Not by Me. And I think that also ties into what you're talking about, that social death, that to be wrong about something is almost inconceivable. When you've publicly made a statement, when this is where you've planted your flag and this is the community you're in, and then you find out it's stuff and nonsense, you can't backtrack on that. You will look like a fool, and looking like a fool is, again, that social death. That and another thing to be ostracized, because we don't also understand what science is. We think science, I heard you say this on a podcast, that these are the facts, and these are always the facts, and these have always been the facts, and these are going to be the facts forever. And that's not how science works. That's not how life works. But that's what human beings want. They want this certainty, and they will double down on something that sounds right and feels good. And we find out it's not. Oh boy. Now what?
One of the studies that I highlight in the book is the Vestiger study with the doomsday cult.
One of the many.
One of the many. Yeah, because there's been lots of prophecies about the world ending, and it hasn't yet, unless we're living in a simulation. But this was a psychic in the early 50s who got a message from alien Jesus that the world was going to end in a flood and global like tsunami. And she gathered a group of followers to be saved when the world ended and the aliens came in their flying saucer. And of course, the world didn't end. But they didn't change their mind. They had given up almost everything. Like some of them had lost their jobs. They gave up they lost their kids. Like they gave up their money. They wouldn't need that stuff. The world was going to end. But also during this time, they had been mocked. They'd been shunned. And so when the world didn't end, instead of changing their mind, they decided, well, she got a message that the world was not going to end because their dedication had saved the world. Yeah. And so not only were they right, they were so right, they had saved the entire world. And I think about that a lot because I think, well, so the aliens have stood these people up and they are not changing their minds. And will they change their minds? And I mean, they don't. And at one place, it's really easy to understand. They had staked their reputations. Like they can't afford to be wrong, which for me means, as the rest of us, the aliens did not save them. What are we going to do? Are we going to mock them? Are we going to shun them? Are we going to say they're stupid? It feels good. What does that solve? It signals to the next person, why would I admit I was wrong?
Yeah.
They were lambasted for that. Why would I change my mind publicly when someone is just going to call me stupid for doing so? So I want to be brave enough to say I was wrong, but also I'm going to be kind enough when somebody is wrong to allow them to be wrong.
I'm sorry that I cannot remember the guest that we had who phrased it this way. We're always walking around trying to change somebody's mind or convince them of something. And very basically, when is the last time you changed your mind? When is the last time you said you were wrong? Not you, but the royal you, based on new information. And it really kind of set me back. It really got me thinking, when is the last time I changed my mind about something? When is the last time I allowed in new information or questioned something? And how difficult is that? We think older people, as you get older, you get set in your ways. It's not just older people, it's human beings. We get a little set, and because it feels like, okay, this must be right. I've had this opinion for a very long time. The longer you've had it, the more true it is. False analogy. But I do have some folks in here who, let me put on my glasses, everybody, because again, I have my letter about fonts has gone unread. Um, Alan, thank you. I think that's Alan. How might I deal with people who are rational in every part of their lives, except they believe in creationism, for example? It's infuriating. Help. There you go. Solve the world there.
Alan, I don't know if you know this. I was actually raised a young Earth creationist. Um,
You buried the lead, my dear.
yes, indeed. I was raised in a very small town in Western Iowa. The world was 6,000 years ago, old. That Noah's flood was the reason for all of the geological formations today. Like, I was armed with all the evidence. I went off to college to be a biology major because I wanted to be a veterinarian. It was not biology classes that changed my mind, actually. My mother was a very strong woman and is a very strong woman. And she raised me that I could do anything anybody with a penis could do, she would tell me. Um,
Go, mom.
my mom is amazing. So, but I remember sitting in ancient civilizations, World Civ 1, and the professor was talking about the kinds of ancient civilizations and the gods that they had created and how they had mimicked the kinds of environmental conditions they had. So my church also taught me that God made man in his image, made woman out of him to serve him, and that her sin and temptation was the cause of everything that was bad in the world, and that she then needed to spend all of eternity atoning for those sins, which is why women needed to be second-class citizens. And I was like, Mom, I don't understand this. So I remember sitting in World Civ 1 and the professor talking about this and feeling this sense of, wait a minute, men make gods? Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. All this to say, the evidence for creationism and evolution were not the reason that I changed my mind, because I was prepared for that. When we think about the kinds of things people believe, something like creationism is almost a surface level belief. There's something under it that's motivating it. So for me, it was my community, my entire worldview was based on that this particular version of God was correct. I was my community was right. All of these external attacks on my community were from the devil. All this to say, dig down past it. It was not about creationism. It was about something else. So as a biologist today, when I teach about these things, I do occasionally have students who don't accept evolution. That's coming not from actually denying the evidence of evolution. That's the surface. It's coming from something underneath. I don't care if they deny the existence of a God or if they continue believing in a God. My concern is about the science of something like evolution. So in class, I focus on that. But in a personal relationship, like you're saying, that I deal with people who believe in this, it's not about that. You can throw evolution facts at them till the end of time because that's not what it's about. So get underneath of it. What is there that's motivating it? And help them understand that it is okay to accept evolution and also that there's a God. Those two things do not have to be separate. We're in a skeptic audience, so I understand there's probably a hole underneath that. But the point is separating out the things that are evidence-based from the things that aren't. And most importantly, getting past what people have built as the layer of facts around it and drilling down towards the underlying motivation and doing whatever you can. I don't know who these people are to you, But if they're close to you, then connecting at that personal level and doing what you can to be the kinds of person that they can have these conversations with and not feel judged and be okay to change their mind and
It is not fast work at all.
never.
This. Mm-mm. But that was a very compassionate and life informed answer. So thank you. Andre, if all the media inputs to our sensory system are now hijacking the fast processing system, how can we slow things down for ourselves and others when consuming media information? Do we need to reject these forms of media like smartphones, social media? I don't know if the Luddite approach is right. I get it. I've wanted to throw out my phone uh, every day. So what do we do? What do you
Yeah, but
recommend?
also, I do love TikTok, and the cat videos on TikTok are pretty epic. So I'm not sure I'm willing to go up that, but no, I do understand. So to me, the most important thing that we could do is to have that skeptical filter in our brain and activate it when necessary, which means, so to me, skepticism is accepting claims proportional to the evidence that's provided and having that part of your brain that goes, wait, is that true? And listening to it and asking long enough to satisfy the answer. So when I'm scrolling through, Leanne, this is a bit into me. Like I'm scrolling through TikTok with the cat videos and I see oh God, that is a really funny cat video. Is that AI? Oh, I really want it to be true because I love a good cat video, but also
Same. Yeah.
I'm going to stop and ask, is that true? And I'm going to investigate it.
Mhm.
This means that you have your filter and you are willing to listen to it. And it also means knowing when that filter is most likely to be overwhelmed. So for me, it's later in the day and it's usually after I've had a scotch or something like that. And it's also recognizing when it's more consequential, like a podcast that's willing to take hundreds of dollars as opposed to an AI cat video. Like which one is more consequential?
Right.
So, there are
Mm.
places to make sure that you activate those filters. And I honestly don't think at this day and age it's actually viable for us to reject. If you figure that actually, Andre, if you figure out how to live without these things, I'm legit curious. Otherwise, it's just being aware of your filter and how it can change during the
Yeah.
day and
Yes.
knowing when to like make it stronger.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, time of day, energy, emotion, alcohol, all of those things are factors to be aware of. Now we are right up at the hour, but I don't want to go just yet because we just have two more. So I
Yeah,
forgot to clear with you to make sure it was okay because I know you've had a hell of a travel day. Yeah, yeah.
I'm good. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. How woo, okay, this is an easy one. Thanks, Chuck. How do we take on the creators of misinformation?
Oh, you were being facetious.
Oh yes, totally. Totally. Yeah, let me just switch into my superhero cape here and we just go out and fight crime. What?
Okay, so an important definition here. The difference between misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation is a broad umbrella of any information that's false or misleading. Disinformation is purposeful, meaning someone knows they're lying and is intentionally deceiving anyway. Um, and there is a difference. I struggle with intent personally. Whenever I see misinformation online, if I were to accuse someone of doing it deliberately, then I have set a new burden of proof for myself, and to the point where we might not any longer be talking about the actual information and why it's wrong. I'm now trying to establish I know you're purposefully lying. And I don't think that's a good use of time in most cases. If someone is lying and we know they're lying, then it is important to say so. Otherwise, if someone is sharing misinformation, you said creator. If someone is sharing something that is false or misleading, but we don't know if they're actually lying, I think it depends on who the person is. Meaning, if you know who they are, then I like to call in versus call out. Instead of doing it publicly, like getting into the comments saying, wow, this is really wrong. You should check this thing out. And how, dare you, and whatever it is. Because that's a public thing. And it's hard to be wrong in public, like we've already talked about.
Isn't it?
Right. So
The 90s,
instead,
anybody? The 90s, I made terrible decisions. I'm so sorry.
but there's no evidence.
How about that? We're so lucky.
But if you message them privately, have a private conversation about it, and say, I see you posted this. I'm not entirely sure about it. How did you come to that? Can we explore this together? So it depends on who it is. It also depends on how bad the misinformation is. If it's potentially really harmful, then it's a different set of circumstances than if it's like, somebody sharing an AI cat video. So there's lots of caveats and ifs, ands, buts. But I would say in general, try to keep the kinds of things that we talked about today in mind, that people just might be wrong. And to have grace, for lack of a better word, and approach them the way that you might want to be approached if you were just wrong.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, we've got one more. And I believe this is, I don't know what this is. All right, we're just gonna go with Mama 9490. Could that be born on September 4th in 1990? I have no idea. I'm totally guessing now. Melanie, how do we convince political parties to admit they're wrong on any issue? Parties often double down when they're wrong about any issue. They also have the sunk cost fallacy going on. I'm going to guess it's because politicians, whether we believe it or not, are human on some level. Maybe. Is that part of the answer?
Yeah. Also, think about how we treat politicians who change their mind.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, we are. It's called flip-flopping.
Flip-flopping and of lying, and we lambast them for doing it.
Yeah.
Why can't we be wrong and change our minds? If I believed everything that I believed even probably a week ago, then I'm going to be wrong. So allowing people to be wrong and changing their mind. I just can't help but think that if we were to create an environment where we allowed people's positions to change based on circumstances and evidence and growth, think of how much better off we would be. So, part of the sunk cost fallacy is I think what they're getting from an external environment. They imagine what the consequences are going to be for changing their minds. It is important. There are really fascinating studies that show that people adopt the positions of people in their party. If you give them a couple of different positions and say, somebody who's a leader in your party says this, then they're going to change their position. It doesn't necessarily align with what they currently believe, but it's their shortcut. It is what their shortcut is for their fellowship. Reducing the impact of tribalism will go a long way for helping us solve this problem. We do not have to adopt the positions, every position of people in our tribe.
Yeah. I wish were spending more time on the human intelligence than artificial intelligence. I think we'd be a little further along. I might be being blasphemous to some of my heavy tech nerds, but if it's outpacing the creator, what are we doing, everybody? And I mean humans as the creator, not the mythical one. Anyway.
Actually, if I might take a moment for AI here, because you raise a really interesting point. Something that really bothers me about AI. There's so much focus on AI these days, and I understand there
Yeah.
AI can do amazing things and amazing things. We have not caught up with the information environment as it was 20 years ago, and right now we're distracted by AI. And so if we were to learn the same kinds of basic skills that would help us with understanding just basic how to fact check, how algorithms work, how to Google, like if we were to understand that, it will help us with AI and with everything else.
Mm.
And so I almost feel like AI is it is distracting us from the kinds of skills that can help us in general.
Okay. It's one of our other presenters, I think, framed it by saying that it's just another tool. And sometimes the people who are on the forefront of using the new tools are going to use them in harmful and distracting and disingenuous ways, while the rest of us are still catching up. Fax machines, anybody? Emails, with email chains, send this to 10 people and get whatever. Like, they're gonna figure out how to use the tech for ill, before we use it for good. So, just to give it a frame. I think you're correct. Um,
Sometimes I realize how old I am, and thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I mean, I've heard about fax machines. I've never seen or used one. I just like ancient pop culture references for no reason. But Melanie, this has been a real treat. Thank you. Your book is coming out in August. Yes, August 6th.
August 4th.
August 4th. Ooh, okay, fantastic. Good luck with it. I know this can be the frustrating part of it, but you've done good work and work that is needed, not just by this community, but um, all of us. So thank you so much. And I just want to remind everyone in the audience, if you missed any of tonight's presentation, it has been recorded and it will be available at skepticalinquirer.org and on our YouTube channel. And again, I hope you can join us June 11th through 14th for SciCon's 50th anniversary. Wait a minute, CFI is Gen X. Woo! Look at that. So my thanks to you again, Melanie, to Skeptical Inquirer, CFI, and of course to all of you in the audience for choosing to spend your time with us. My name is Leanne Lord. Good night and à la prochaine.
Thank you.
Bye.